So again, as I mentioned, it's on the road in Albert Lea. Beautiful shot of Albert Lea there. So while we can't be there in person, Zoom has allowed us to really connect, and so we're pleased about that. And we have two presenters.
All right. Hi, I'm Dustin. I'm one of the owners of T&W Towing. We started here in Albert Lea 2018. The end of 2018 is when we started. This is kind of a progress photo, basically. That May 6th photo is the first one that I have. That's our old shop. That was a very small two-bay shop, and we had a pickup on top of that at that point in time, and that's it. And then, well, you can see the progress through the year. And that bottom right picture is the latest fleet photo that I have. We actually added 5 more trucks after that I have yet to take any pictures of. So we've been very rapidly expanding and growing. With that, there's been some real challenges with that. So happen to be here. I've actually used Brad, as he stated, with some traffic incident management classes. We put all of our guys through. Very big believer in more training with things. So anyways, moving forward, here's kind of our background. We started in 2018 actually as a car dealership, was what we were going to be originally, T&W Motors. The original plan with that is to move into that and do some buy here, pay here. At some point in time, we were planning on buying at least a flatbed to kind of push our own things or be able to haul our own things. That ended up leading to an opportunity to purchase another towing company that was the former longer term company in the area, or the replacement for it anyway. Long story short with that, we were buying that. We had to basically restart the company from the ground up. And long story short, legally things weren't done that were supposed to have been done. So we ended up forming T&W Towing on October 29th, just so we were 100% legal with everything and not having to deal with the baggage of some of the previous owners of that company. And we had a couple of good years here, with 2019 being the best year we've had. We had, well, a very heavy winter that year, which directly helped our business. And then we had our biggest competitor by a long shot that kind of threw us into where we're at right now. Or the big guys in town got bought out, and the new owners didn't really do very well with it. So we've taken advantage of that and focused on trying to build a community-based business that actually cares about the community, rather than just profiting as much as we possibly can and running, basically. And well, since then we've really added some trucks and gotten into some other markets here that we didn't really anticipate doing, and we're about twice the size of what we really anticipated being, even total in the future, to be honest. So that's kind of our background anyways. We're getting into some things that are our biggest issues that we're having is, well, breaking more into this heavy towing market that we got started into here. We've got the trucks for it, and I've got some of the manpower that I need for it, and we've done a lot of training with it. But I'm having issues with being able to actually get my foot in the door with that. There's, I guess breaking into any new market for anything is always a challenge, but this one seems to be especially a hard nut to crack as far as local industry goes. We're on I-35 and I-90, so there's a lot of truck traffic, so it's not hard to do online advertising, or we have a very strong online presence that allows us to be able to get some of the guys who might break down driving through the area. But you can't really count on that as much as you can the company that's run 30 trucks every day down the road in our county. So we're trying to get more into the local side of things with the heavy side. Our next biggest issue that we've had by a long shot is, like I kind of mentioned before, I touched on it at least a little bit, is we did not plan on getting this big, especially this fast. We went from, the example I just gave recently to somebody was our first year in business. In October, we did $6,000 worth of business. This October, we did like 80 something thousand worth of business. So that's a very, very significant growth in 2 years that has left us without normal systems that a lot of people would want to have in place. Um, and with that, I mean, finding good employees, it's a problem that everybody has, I'm sure, but finding guys that are actually willing to work is a very difficult problem for us. I'm hoping that I can get some insight on that with some guys. Um, the other thing that was completely unexpected with this, at least for me, and I mean completely unexpected, was the politics side of this. I did not plan on having this. I did not plan on any of the politics side of what this has led into with this, which isn't a huge problem. I guess for the most part, I'm all right with that, but it's a little bit more than what I anticipated. Um, Productivity with employees has definitely been an issue. We actually just started actually tracking that, and there's days where we have guys that they don't really track what they've been doing for 3 to 4 hours. And it's like, I need them here for in between tows, but they need to work in the shop. And we've got a fleet of like 13 or 14 trucks right now that we need to maintain. So that's a process to stay on top of all of that. So finding a way to keep the productivity up in between calls seems to be an issue. And that's a part of that is this, how to be a boss instead of a friend. I guess I always try and be there for some of our guys if they need anything. I'm there to help. Um, but with that, I mean, I kind of feel like they think of me more as a friend than a boss. So any insight I can get with that would be fantastic, I guess. I guess what I'm really trying to look for with 1 Million Cups here after I discussed with Gary and I'm trying to find out what kind of, tools you guys or trainings that you guys might have available that even if it's just YouTube stuff for all I know, that just so we can, get a little bit more of the back end side of things, we're a lot bigger than what we anticipated doing. So, I mean, running the mom and pop type of shop that we were kind of planning on doing isn't exactly effective at the level of what we're doing at this point in time. So we need to step up on that side of things. And then how we can market into this a little bit more effectively with this new market. And I mean, I guess like how it is with the political side of things, just any pointers I can get with that. And then any hiring help. I mean, that's kind of the biggest downfall. We've had pretty good luck with Facebook has been our best thing for that recently. I've tried Indeed slightly, but not a whole heck of a lot. I did try a boosted ad with that once, and getting guys from Texas isn't exactly a good thing for me because I'm not in a position where I can afford to pay for relocation expenses, especially for somebody that far away. So finding people is kind of a hard thing. Like I said, Facebook's done pretty good for us with that. So I guess with that, that's essentially the who we are and what we do. There's our website and contact information, anyways. Any questions?
Hey, great job of telling this story here. And let me, I'm going to turn over to Julie here. I've got a barking dog here to lead the discussion here. So Julie, if you could handle it.
Sure. I have barking kids here this morning, but you can't hear them right now. Um, Thank you so much for sharing your story here. It sounds like there's a lot you could use some help with. And actually, I might ask you to go back a slide so we can keep those in the forefront. Thank you. If you have a question here or a suggestion, if you'd like to, it looks like Yvonne's got her hand raised, and then, or if you'd like to go in the chat or raise your hand here in Zoom, go ahead and we'll call on you. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Could you talk a little bit about the back end of the business needs? Are you thinking about things like scheduling, tracking of inventory, tracking of people? What sorts of things do you feel like you need to have systems for that you don't?
Well, the inventory thing's a good thing that you brought up because we're actually just starting to get more into that with our heavy side of things. I mean, we're by a long shot, I'm a towing company first and foremost, but we do a lot of road service things. If a truck breaks down on the road, a lot of times these companies want to send a service truck out first. So we do that, and I don't have a huge inventory by any means. It's been manageable with more or less a pen and paper, but a better way of handling that, if somebody's got suggestions for that, would be a great thing with that. Aside from that, a lot of what we need is the QuickBooks training, actually, would probably be a very good thing to get some more in-depth info on that specifically. I mean, that's a great tool that I feel like we don't really fully utilize.
I can send you some contacts that can help you with QuickBooks training and with inventory tracking. So I'll just send that to you in chat.
That would be great.
And then the other thing that you mentioned that really resonated with me was the whole boss versus friend thing. I found that hard too. You know, when I first started my business, I really liked the people that I hired because I wouldn't have hired them, right? And then you feel like, you know, you want to be a good boss. You don't want to be that mean person, you know, who's telling them what to do and stuff all the time. But at a certain point, I had to just kind of give up on the friend side of things. I'm friendly with my employees, but you know, we don't do social things together. And that helped me so that I could kind of have this dividing line and be able to say, this is what you need to do today, you know, in a friendly, you know, and cooperative way, but we're not hanging out having beers afterwards. And that gave me that little bit of a line. So just passing that along.
Okay.
Outstanding. Sarah says that she's got some feedback for along the same lines.
Yes, kind of part question, part suggestion. I don't know if it's only you kind of working in the office or if you have somebody else. But I was actually in a situation once where the boss felt that way, and I was hired as the manager to kind of be that liaison. So I did the hiring, and then she'd kind of approve, and then as well as taking some of that stuff off your plate and help putting those systems in place. And that's all I did for a job. So I didn't know if that's something that you consider bringing in office staff or manager or something to help with that.
What we've done now here more recently, so I focus generally on the business side of things, like as far as building it or pricing structure or actually physically doing a lot of the heavy duty stuff. But when it comes to like the back end of the, you know, any of the book work or anything like that, I actually have my wife is who does that, and she's generally our dispatcher as well. So I've kind of got somebody that helps in the office with that aspect of things for the most part. But I mean, finding a way to, I mean, she doesn't have a huge background in accounting or doing exactly what she's doing either. So it would be great to have somebody or some training that we can deal with that would be directly related to that.
Awesome. Dustin, it looks like Mike H has a question for you as well. Mike, do you feel comfortable unmuting and asking it?
Sure. I was just curious, since you made the comment of getting employees and good employees, how many employees do you have at this point, and how many are you trying to bring in this coming year?
I've got 3 full-time guys and 2 part-time guys. And we're realistically, I probably need at least 1 more full-time guy and probably another 1 or 2 part-time guys for this winter at a bare minimum. If winter even comes. I mean, as you can probably imagine, our workload is about 3 times as much when it snows versus when it doesn't. So we that's kind of a struggle for me too, to have a full-time guy that I'm really only going to need for, I mean, truly need for 6 months or so. And what do I do with him the next 6 months? I mean, I could probably afford to keep him, but at the same time, I don't necessarily need him. So that's kind of been part of our issue.
And it looks like Lindsay has a suggestion. Lindsay, would you like to give your suggestion?
Sure. I don't know if you've heard of Linda from LinkedIn. I've used it for software training. It's just an online video tool. You can search different software and watch multiple videos on how to do something. It does cost money. I think there's a free trial. Something to consider. I haven't personally used ZipRecruiter, but I hear like it's so many different times for jobs. I don't know if anyone else has experience using that, but that might be something to get more employees. And then I don't know, do you have like an employee handbook for like handling, well, I don't know exactly what you mean by political aspect of issues, but I was just wondering if you had an employee handbook.
We do have one that we kind of developed ourselves and kind of based it off of a couple of different employee handbooks that we've personally had in our lives. So we kind of took the parts that we liked with some of those and tweaked it a little bit for ours. We do have an employee handbook, I guess. So the political side of things hasn't been so much with the employees as much as some of the potential new clients. Specifically with our industry, we deal with law enforcement and that type of stuff quite a bit. So it's it's been kind of a political nightmare dealing with all of that. And I mean, we try and do right by everybody and do everything the way that things should be done, but it's hard to not step on some people's toes sometimes when they're, I mean, I guess I'm kind of a blunt person, so I don't really like beating around the bush. So when a political thing comes in, it's kind of just difficult for me to not just be blunt and end up hurting somebody's feelings, which could directly hurt our business considerably.
Sorry, what you just said is like going through my head here. It looks like what I saw, David had a question as well. Yes, David, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, Dustin, thanks for the good information. With respect to your employees, uh, what's the training requirements to be out on a tow job, whether it be jiggle? And then with that said, I mean, you guys have to be highly technical trained. Do they have to come from a mechanic, diesel mechanic background to be able to work there with you? Or?
You broke up a little bit there. I think I got the gist of what you're asking with the training side of things with it. Most of our guys, so I've actually tried hiring experienced in this industry guys, and for the most part, that has not really worked for me because I found that they come and they've got bad habits that are either hard to break or impossible to break, or they've just got a whole different way of operating because that's the way they were trained. So what I found works best for me is to hire somebody brand new to the industry and train them how I want them trained. And part of that, I mean, if you can see on the wall behind me here, you can see, I think 3 of them, it looks like on my screen anyways. I've got a wall full of certifications from our guys over here from trainings that we've sent them to. We also provide them with some online training specific to our industry and do a lot of hands-on with it. But the background that I'm looking for is guys that are mechanically inclined. I don't necessarily need a full-on like master mechanic by any means, but somebody who understands, the basic principles of how a car is, or what it can do is certainly something that we would like to have. Because I mean, if you got $100,000 car sitting in the ditch, well, the trucks that we've got are very, very capable of destroying things if you don't do the job properly. And sometimes, I mean, I can train you for a lot of different situations, but I mean, everything that we do here is different in some aspects. So there's guys got to be able to kind of figure some things out on their own and use common sense is one of the bigger things for us. But the biggest thing that I'm having an issue with finding guys for is actually with this heavy duty side of things, because with that you do have to have a Class A license. So finding somebody that wants to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go play in traffic on the side of the road in the middle of a blizzard when it's -20 and a 40-mile-an-hour wind isn't exactly a easy thing to find.
Hey, Dustin, I'll jump in with a question there that another resource, if you've looked into, and I do believe you, I noticed that you're a member of the Minnesota Professional Towing Association. Have you looked to try to resource, not in your own county, obviously, but any of the other members of that association for help on some of these challenges you have?
Yep, I've actually talked not only with some of the guys that are in that, but with some guys that I know out of like Iowa or some of these bigger guys. There's one that I have in particular that's kind of a good, real good help. He's actually just recently really helped me a lot with doing me a massive favor, selling me some equipment that's probably worth about $20,000 for about $500, just because he's trying to help me out, basically.
Mhm.
And he's helped me with some of the other back end things of that, or some advice with that. And actually, the former owner of my largest competitor here in town actually has stopped in and talked with me a few different times and given me some pointers on things. So I've certainly tried to ask people who know more than me in our industry. So
Good.
that's been a very, very good resource. Actually, these two trainings right there that are on the wall, the blue ones, are actually with the Minnesota Towing Professional Association, and that whole group as a whole has been a very good help. And actually, frankly, my personal opinion on these trainings that we go to, especially like the heavy side of things, I mean, the training is worth the knowledge and going forward. But honestly, the biggest thing I like out of it is the networking and the communication I get between some of the other businesses. And most of the time, it's the owners going to it, so owners can, they can learn all of this and go back and teach their guys what they learned. So that's been a very, very good thing to start getting involved in. So I try and find anything I can find like that to go to, I go to.
Yvonne's put in some wonderful resources in here. She's talked about Handshake by MSU for hiring. She put in the resource Nancy went there at the SBDC for QuickBooks training. They also have a consultant that works with HR, so she might be a good resource for you, Tammy. But you have in here the best resources approach for hiring good help, and you mentioned how you boosted a post and you got people from Texas, and there's some strategic ways you can go about that. But I feel like you're sitting with the I'm being a friend aspect. You're kind of sitting in a similar seat as most of these new either business owners or managers right now who now have a work from home staff, that it feels like they're more of a friend than a manager because they're distant, so they're not able to be over their shoulder every second, and they're struggling on keeping their employees accountable. And I find that the answer for a lot of that usually is just very clear expectations right from the get-go. Being the friend, understanding things, I struggle with this as well as an employer, but being a friendly person that people are loyal to is not such a bad thing. And I find that that seems to be where you find the best help and the most long-term help. And actually putting that out there on social media, and I happen to be in that business, but you mentioned Facebook and you get some of your hires from Facebook, putting out there why your employees love working for you, or why you love what you do, or your passion for helping the community and being human. Putting that out there will attract people who want to work for you. It takes a little bit of time, but I would work on that with some of your content for hiring good help, to back up those resources. But we can absolutely even talk in the future about how you can better boost your posts so you're not hitting Texas. But we have a few raised hands as well. Dustin, did you have a question or a comment that you'd like to give?
Yes, I just wanted to mention on the marketing side of things. Obviously, you've done marketing on Facebook. I don't know if you guys have an Instagram or not, but I tend to do both at the same time because I end up having my Instagram seems to be more geared for what I do just because of the pictures and everything else. But what I was going to mention is just simple flyers, like printing out a bunch of flyers saying, hey, we're in this heavy equipment towing thing, and basically just send that out to everybody in the area and or every business in the area, or however you want to do it. That helps tremendously because people have it physically in their hand, they see it, they remember it, and that would be my advice. So
That's actually been some of the best that we've had results with. We have a very strong online presence for our area. I mean, if you Google anything with heavy towing or anything with towing in general in Albert Lea or within a 30-mile radius, we're a very, very good online presence for that. But as far as trying to get connected with some of the local stuff, that's the best thing that we had. Was I think 5, 6 different flyers now, and whether it was light duty or heavy duty or both or whatever it was, and went out myself and just handed them out to different places, shake hands, talk to people, that type of thing.
Mhm.
That has helped tremendously with things, because then people go, oh, I didn't know you had that. Well, yes, we do. Here's a picture of it working. So that's worked very well. I actually have a stack of new flyers that I haven't had time to go bring out here recently, but that's on my list.
Excellent.
Awesome. It looks like we have just a few more, and then we'll probably move on to our final question. Yvonne did note that the type of person that is probably okay with those 40-mile-per-hour winds is probably the type of person who gets joy from rescuing others. So your ask for employees might actually focus on those people who kind of like that adrenaline rush or those bad situations. There's a few of us, and well, Brad, I'm sure he's got some connections in those areas as well. But Bobby, you have your hand raised. Did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yes, I would really like to. About a very long time ago, I was involved with a company just like yours and developing a marketing program. And I suggested music, and it worked very, very well for him because he wasn't very liked in town. Our university just started to expand, and there was a lot of touring going on because of the construction. And what I did is I put together a please help me. And at the time it was a cost agency, and I just said, please help me, Mr. Cost. My battery's gone and I think I'm lost. And bam, all of a sudden the music became a high interest, low vocabulary identity for him. And his world changed for about 2 years. It's about, just because of the music. So all I'm suggesting is that if you threw in a logo, a positive logo, along with your touring, like something like the first campaign I came up with was, how about a Captain Hook campaign for a positive identity, and that was rejected. But then the music campaign worked very, very well. So all I'm saying is, don't forget about the music.
And then with that, we'll look to kind of wrap up. Before we ask that final question, and you've done a very good job of laying out bullet points there of how we might be able to help, do want to suggest to you, because a lot of good comments, we didn't get to all of them in there in the chat. Dustin, if you go to the bottom of the chat, there's a box with 3 dots in it. If you click on that, you can save the chat. And when you save the chat, then you can put it in a location where then you can access it later and not lose all those comments.
Yeah.
And so we moved away there, but as on the slides, but you've laid out, is there anything in just finishing that in terms of how this community can help you from all the discussion, if there's one of those 5 that you listed, anything else that we might follow up with you on?
I don't know that I can really pick one thing offhand. It looks like there's some, just looking kind of through some of the chat here, and this looks like there's a lot in here that I think I'm gonna have to follow up on. So
Well, good. Well, we're here for you. Follow up either through me and I can reconnect you, but appreciate you sharing your story with us today. So thanks very
Sounds
much,
good.
Dustin. Wish